up in the top left position, we do have the blue Protoss player leveling out the series in Game 2 to take it to the ace match. A lot expected of him. From Team Axiom, it is CranK. Oh, we get cheers for CranK as well. That's
right,
good.
we have an audience here now, man.
Okay, and down in the bottom right position, for Mouse Esports, only 15 years old, the Red Terran, it is HeroMarine! They upped it there. Ow, that was loud.
That was loud. I also stepped on the cable when I stood up and I actually hurt my right ear. But hey, that's okay. We can move past that. It's all right. These are things that you do, you live and learn, not a problem whatsoever. I'm just glad I wasn't on camera when
Have
that
you tried
happened.
walking away with the headset still on yet? I did that yesterday after like 10 hours of casting. I was just like, oh, I'm going to get a drink, and it's slapped against my ear.
I will not openly admit to that on stream.
Okay, so that's a yes then. Anyway, right, so this map should be quite big and macro. There's lots of bases you can easily take, Jorasar, and there's a lot of dead space around, so perhaps CranK, a good Stargate opening. Drops are also viable, and that's what we've been seeing in Game 1 and 2 anyway, so really, this map for these two should be a pretty good choice.
Yeah, it's there's also a little bit of a choice about taking a third base here. We can see that sometimes people take the third base that's sort of in the vertical line from the main base in the natural expansion, and sometimes they go and grab that base that's sort of tucked away between the destructible rocks and the rock tower over there. We sometimes have players have a little bit of an issue, especially with drop play, because there's a lot of dead space around what I guess you could call your natural third, sort of back around the back there. There's just so much space that medevacs can fly through without too much getting in their way that it potentially can be a problem. So I'm wondering if we're going to see some aggressive drops here from HeroMarine.
We very well could, and currently just coming up, and there is a complete wall off, which is not something you see that often, so maybe CranK going to be a bit freaked out by this, wondering, hey, what's going on behind him? There is a gas, so therefore almost certainly going to be a Reaper. Potentially, it could be a Factory if we don't see it soon. And this is a very different playstyle to what we saw Game 1 and 2.
Yep, I think we're going to be seeing a little bit of switching up. I mean, neither player is going to be 100% completely happy with the way they've played the first couple of games. There were mistakes from both sides, of course. So they're trying to get back in the groove in game number 3. They know how important this game is. And I fully expect them just... I don't want to say play more safe, but definitely play more solidly. Be a little bit more focused on the macro. When you move out, just be that little bit extra sure that your opponent isn't going to be coming in and sneaking an attack around the flanks. You want to be protecting against drops. You want to make sure that nothing sneaky like a Warp Prism or an Oracle is popping into your base. Stuff like that. We're going to see just a little bit of a slower game, I think.
I think that's the right thing to say, because in Game 3, even though it's group stages, so it's not like it's an elimination or anything like that, you don't want to be worrying yourself about things like, oh, do I go for something aggressive? Do I risk it? You want to take the right opportunities, and actually I think this is where CranK could have an advantage. He's much more experienced with this sort of thing. He's a lot more used to LAN environments, just due, if nothing else, to being a lot older than HeroMarine, and therefore that experience could pay off. But
on the flip side, though, we've seen some players before, for example, where their youthful age is actually working in their favor because they just don't get as many nerves. They just head in there and they're like, right, okay, I need to beat this guy. Fine, I'll go do it then. Look at Startail Life. That season, he basically became the first Royal Road. It just showed up in Code S and went, oh, I have to beat all these older established guys who are multiple champions? Okay then, and he just proceeded to do it.
He was just there under the, like, do they even know how to use a DVD player? Like, legit, he just sat down, he was ready to take them out. So, I mean, that's the thing. I think the big thing is HeroMarine, because he's quite young, because he's new to the scene, he's not afraid to do things outside of the box.
Yeah, and
that can really help.
It can. It is not necessarily a... especially because he's less well-known, especially in Korean circles, there's not some sort of set defined style that CranK's going, oh, I need to play like this versus HeroMarine as well. It makes it a little bit difficult. We can see there the Marines being very, very diligent about their in-base defense, not wanting the Mothership Core to get a word in edgeways. We've also got the Starport now, as well as the Factory moving out, so we're going to be seeing some Marine mine pushes here, potentially. I'm not expecting HeroMarine to go in and try and kill CranK with this or anything like that, but if he can get him contained to 2 bases or pick off a couple of units and just generally dominate the map, that would be quite useful for him. It's
really useful. There's also the possibility of mine drops with the medevac coming out, so that's something that can be really, really annoying if you push Marines up into the front, pull all of CranK's army down, and then come and drop into the probe line. But the good news for CranK is he has got that robotics facility out very, very early on, is getting observers, and that means that he doesn't have to worry about the detection.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure you definitely don't want to be in an embarrassing situation where those mines absolutely ruin your day. And so far this tournament, actually, I haven't really gotten to see any situations where, oh yes, there's a couple of Widow mines completely ruining someone's day. I think we're getting to a stage post-release now where, yes, mines can still catch people off guard, but generally speaking, a lot of players have been quite good about trying to mitigate that damage before it happens.
Now, basically what we're seeing now is CranK, he's just starting to push a little bit forward, but there is a single mine in a medevac coming to drop in. So this isn't a big commitment. This is just, if I get away with this, it's all good. I'm going to do some damage. I'm going to annoy you. If it doesn't go well, then actually I haven't lost too much. It's not like it's game-breaking. Meanwhile, CranK is completely out of position, going for his own aggression. With the Observer, does see those Widow mines there. That is huge. That
he moves it out. Main base, main base. The mine dropped without it being seen and picks off a couple of probes. Very nicely done there by HeroMarine. Of course, that one dot, very difficult to see if you're focused on your attack potentially going in. And the Observer, of course, just about getting out of range of that scan. So HeroMarine getting a few probe kills there.
Yep, the important thing is the natural base, where the Observer did see the two mines there. That's stopping CranK pushing straight up. He knows he's got to be careful. The Observer, as you said, got out of the way of the scan, which is really, really important. And now, just CranK waiting. He doesn't want to push up too early. There's two bunkers there, lots of Marines. One Marine getting caught out. 3 force fields though for a Marine. Not a big problem, but you want to save that energy just in case you need the engagement. But all in all, this now just means that CranK, he's containing his opponent quite nicely. He can just do what he wants back home.
Let's take stock of what's going on at this stage of the game. CranK has just started his upgrades. He's got double forge. He's chrono boosting out attack and armor level 1 at the moment. He's on 47 workers at the moment against the 42 of HeroMarine, but don't forget, of course, with those orbital commands, HeroMarine will be able to drop mules, and therefore the income is actually very, very slightly in HeroMarine's favor, effectively even at the moment. But map vision at the moment, it has to be said, predominantly goes to CranK. If we take a look at Crank's vision just for a second, our Observer can definitely see that he just has so much of the map right now. HeroMarine can't really get a word in edgeways. He's got both watchtowers, he's got pylons in good locations, and potentially can basically scout drops unless they go all the way around the edge. That's really good stuff coming out from CranK.
And even if it did go all the way around the edge, it's a long way to go. So what I'm seeing up is we've got the robotics bay coming down. We've also got the 1-1 upgrades about to complete for CranK. Meanwhile, HeroMarine, he's just getting the +1 infantry weapons. He's also got the armory to can start +2 fairly early on. The medevac count starting to rack up, the first 2 just hitting the field. And all in all, what we need to be thinking is, hang on, HeroMarine, he's got to try and move out. He's got to try and do something, because if he just lets CranK go about his business, he's going to get up a very strong army very quickly.
Twilight Council coming down for CranK, but he's also got the robotics bay down and he's chrono boosting extended thermal lance, the upgrade of course that he forgot last game, so that's where all of his gas is going to go at the moment, and he needs to produce Colossi. Therefore I think at this moment in time the Twilight Council might just be there to enable him to get a +2 upgrade, because he doesn't really have the gas to do everything at once at the moment. We'll wait and see. HeroMarine though moving out with a small force towards the ramp of the natural expansion. He might try and get a bit of damage done here.
The Observer can see the mines. That is so important. That means the gateway units aren't going to be baited back. Good force fields there, trapping a lot of the infantry. Cannon's doing some nice damage, but that first Colossus is so desperately needed. Extended thermal lance has not been forgotten this time, and once that comes out, suddenly we're going to see HeroMarine get his push really shut down.
Yep, and as predicted there, we don't have the Twilight Council coming out for charge or blink just yet. They are going to be for 2-2 upgrades. Another nice set of force fields picking off a few more units. The drop coming in as well, but that's not going to work very well against the Photon overcharge here. And Colossus trying its best to pick away the units, but needs to be careful not to overcommit. And CranK does hold this off. 101 supply versus 97, and he's still ahead in work. Is 53 to 47.
So, HeroMarine, he's in full retreat now. He tried to push forward, he tried to do some nice damage, tried to hit that good +1 timing push, which can work really well with infantry, but the Colossus just got out fractionally too soon, was able to hold it off, and also CranK had great force fields.
Yeah,
so now, back to the drawing boards, start Viking production, ready to counter that Colossi, and also, it's good for HeroMarine in the sense that he scouted it so early, because he shouldn't get caught off guard now by a good group of 3-4 Colossi able to shred through his army, because Game 1 and 2, CranK did go High Templar.
Yeah, and he is leaving himself potentially open to transition here as well. He's only off the 1 robotics facility at the moment, so could easily plonk down a Templar Archives if he wants to. We have 2-2 nearly done, and now that he has a little bit of gas now, because he started those upgrades, he was able to pull it up again. Now we're seeing charge being researched for the Zealots, and of course, alongside those Colossi with extended thermal lance, potentially an absolutely devastating army composition against Bio, unless a substantial number of Vikings are involved. Now, HeroMarine currently
sorry to interrupt you there, we've got double Hellbat drop in the main, and it is doing a lot of damage. And straight away, we saw, well, it's not actually that much. 3 workers were killed there, which isn't, 4 rather, not a huge amount, but again, it's forced CranK to pull back a lot of his army. This has given HeroMarine the space to start moving forward, but it is spotted by the Observer. The pickup spotted by the Observer. And this third base, looking to be okay for the time being.
Yeah, I think really good spot there, by the way, on the Hellbat drop. Almost missed that, but we have HeroMarine moving forward now. The problem is, there are, I think, 4 Vikings, 6 now on the field. There are 3 Colossi. It's not technically enough to wipe them out quickly, and this extended thermal lance is doing so much damage. Photon overcharge going down as well. We have the infantry moving forward to pick apart the Colossi. In the meantime, is the rest of the army going to be able to take it out? It looks like no. And CranK now at 121 to 117 supply. The 3rd Nexus is complete right now, and he might be thinking about moving down the ramp to prevent HeroMarine from taking out the 3rd.
HeroMarine, though, going to come and check down to find that 3rd. Will see it, and I don't believe CranK is going to be able to save this. There's a good number of Marauders there. He can just power through that very quickly. No way you can move out with the Colossus to try and save that, because the Vikings would kill it near instantly. And this is bad news for CranK, and it means that they're both back on just 2 bases.
I'm a little bit surprised that CranK, earlier on before HeroMarine moved down, didn't try and prod to see if he could engage, because when HeroMarine moved up the ramp, CranK could see that at that moment in time, HeroMarine didn't actually have that many Vikings. So those extra 2 Colossi that came out might have been able to get some damage done, but as it stands, he actually got his 3rd sniped off. He was definitely not expecting that.
So currently, supply-wise, HeroMarine slightly ahead. Talking a little bit about the worker count, 55 for CranK to 47.
SCVs have been pulled, Maddles. Here we go, out through the middle of the map.
Choo-choo train.
Exactly. Knock, knock, choo-choo, but will it actually be GG? The number of SCVs, of course, still left in the bases. Don't forget, he's still technically on 2 bases, is HeroMarine. He needs to find a way to make this work. If he doesn't, the work account will be so severely in CranK's favor. And here we go. No more Colossi here just yet. Here come 2, but the Vikings are effectively 2-shotting them right now. And a decent concave, actually, for HeroMarine, has to be said.
Those Colossi did effectively nothing, and just look at the amount of damage. The Force Fields have gone down, preventing the retreat. The Vikings even landing to get in on that, and suddenly we have got a very close engagement. Looking at it, though, 15 Marauders are out on the field, 7 more Marines. Suddenly, CranK being forced back. Is HeroMarine going to be able to do this? He's sniping off the forges, and if that natural does fall, then CranK is going to be pretty much mined out at his main shortly as well.
Yeah, I think so. 2 base versus 2 base. CranK desperately trying to get the 3rd up, and it looks like that lack of units is going to prove to be his downfall here. Now Storm comes out, but the damage has already been done. HeroMarine deciding, well, I could just push up and try and end the game here, or I could move back, take stock, and decide what to do later, and it looks like that's what he's going to do. Now moving up once a High Templar has been taken out. A lot of Storms have been used, don't forget, so HeroMarine is banking on the fact that CranK doesn't have that many left. 109 to 94 supply now. Is HeroMarine going to overextend here? Another good Storm coming out from CranK. They have to be so careful.
They both do, and of course HeroMarine did pull a lot of SCVs there, so even though he did manage to knock out the natural, he is quite low on his harvester count. He doesn't have a 3rd behind this either, so it's not completely all over. CranK doing his best to micro, but if that Immortal falls, I think that's going to be it, and CranK is going to be forced to GG. Look at the supply difference, and is this going to be the first upset in the first game of Group C?
I think so. GG!